All right, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to identify a moving object in a sequence of images, in particular, an asteroid. So let me share my screen. Okay, here we are in Afterglow, and the first thing we need to do is import our sequence of images of this asteroid. Now, if you're doing this as part of Lab 4, the Parallax Lab, you'll find your data in one of two possible places. The first possibility is your instructor acquired a fresh, new sequence of images for you to use. Actually, as part of Lab 4, your instructor will acquire not one, but two sequences, one using a telescope in the southern hemisphere and one using a telescope in the northern hemisphere. And the instructor has to do this because these sequences are acquired simultaneously. That requires a special, much higher priority level. Okay, if that's the case, you go to Data Providers, Skynet, and your instructor's observations will be under Group Observations. Now, when you take observations, you find them under User Observations, but these will be under Group Observations, and when you go there, there'll be a great many observations there. Your instructor will need to give you the name of these observations or the number. Now, for this particular exercise, identifying which point of light is the asteroid, you only need one sequence or the other. You don't need to load them both in. Now, the other possibility is your instructor did not get fresh data, and you'll be using archival data that the Skynet team acquired for you in the past. In this case, you go to Data Providers, and you go to the Sample Directory, and it's under Astro 101 Lab. Go down to Lab 4. You can see we have a long sequence here. You can use any of these. I'm going to use the most recent one from spring of 2018. Now, if you go here, you'll find two subfolders. First one's called Movie. We go in here and we'll find one of the two sequences. And that's all that we need. So I'm going to select all of these and import them. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is check all of them to make sure they're all usable. If any are not usable, I'll make a note of that. So far, so good. They all have stars. They're all of the same field. This is the same field. It's just been rotated. Okay, all the images look good. So the first thing we need to do is align these images. Each image is a little bit off-centered from every other image. So we go down here to the Alignment tool, and we select the images to align. And since they're all good, I can just press the little square, and that selects all of the images. Now, if some of the images are bad, I can unselect them. But in this case, they were all good. And active image file doesn't matter. Mode should be astrometric, and overwrite file should be checked. And these won't overwrite the data in the database, just in your browser. So I'm going to submit, and it's processing this job. And what it's doing is aligning all of the images to one of them. So all the stars will be in alignment. Okay, that's done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to stack these images. Essentially, we're going to average them together. So we go down to the Show Stacking button there and select Images to Stack. Again, I can select all of them, but if any one of them were bad, I can deselect it like that. Mode should be average, rejection and scaling should be none, and you press the Submit button, and it creates a new file where it's averaged or stacked all the images together. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to zoom to fit. And so what you see is all the stars are in alignment, but we have one object that's moving across the image, and that's the asteroid. So now, when we go to measure the parallax, we'll know which object we're measuring the parallax of. And it's this, the moving asteroid. Now you'll also notice the edges look a little strange, and that's because all of the images were a little bit out of alignment originally. And when we lined them all up, only this area here in the middle overlapped between all of the images. So the edges, we didn't have data from all of the images, and so that gets messed up a little bit. But that's okay. We only need this to identify the moving object. So the last thing we want to do is save this. So just take a snapshot, and you can upload that image into your lab in WebAssign. Okay, that's it for this tutorial.